Hey y'all, Melissa here at Twin Oaks Family Farm. It is March 6, 2025. We actually took a break from our YouTube uploads this week because all the things needed extra attention. Work, family, faith, home, farm, all of it. So we had to just take a break from uploads, but we've still been recording a little bit of things going on. So today we were scheduled to get some egg production breed chickens, baby chickens, pullets that will be hens that we want to keep for our household egg supply. So that was what was on the agenda for today. It was actually on the agenda for yesterday. It got pushed back to today due to issues in the transport. But surprise, surprise, there happen to be some meat chickens available too. So y'all are going to get first look at our kickoff of meat chickens for 2025. So we had wanted to start 100 back in January. We opted not to because it was so cold, and on the day that we were going to get them it was so cold. So then that meant that we didn't have birds scheduled again till March 12th, and this is like I said, March 6th. So I'm excited to have some meat birds here. So what we'll end up doing, I am going to show them to you, just bear with me. What we'll end up doing is trying to roll this group of meat birds into the meat birds that we have coming. So the 225 that are coming next week on processing day, I think they're timed, so they'll be about 6 weeks old. So these will be pushing 7 weeks old, but that's okay. We're gonna take them together. We do need to reach out to the processor and let them know we're expecting to have more birds than we originally scheduled for. I did try calling them, couldn't get them, and had to make a quick decision on the meat birds because when I spoke for these, this was unexpected that they would even be available locally here. And when I spoke for these, within 10 minutes, 2 or 3 other people called right after me trying to get them. So I knew I had to speak for them quickly, so I did. So I'm so excited. So you want to see them? They're in there. You can see them right there. So we're going to actually move them in, but I'll give you a peek in the box. Look at those little chickies. So I think there's about 78 of them, okay? So conditions are, step back around here. Conditions are, it is about 37 degrees Fahrenheit outdoors. We do have a couple heat lamps set up. We were prepared for 12 egg production pullets of 4 different breeds, and I'll show you those. But we're going to go ahead and move these in where those are, and as the day goes on, we'll have to drop another couple heat lamps for adding in this set of birds. And like I said, more or less, we'll keep them separated, but when it comes processing time, they'll go with the group that we have coming in. So another little quick peek. Let's go get them moved in. Okay, so this is where we're going with the chicks. So you can see we had 12, and then we were also gifted about 7 more. So we have 19 egg production birds. We had 2 lamps down, and they're feed and water just to give them some room. So now we unexpectedly have 78 straight run Cornish Rock Cross we can add in here. So there's approximately, there would have been like 100 in this box, 25 or so in each quad of it. So now there's about 78 left. There were 12 spoken for or so before I got to speak for them. So I set them there where there's some warmth, and they're packed in the boxes. So what that leverages is the bird's own body heat and helps keep them warm. And see, these boxes have all these potential punch outs. So like in the hot months, they can punch out lots more of those holes at the hatchery. But in the cold months, they just punch out enough to give them fresh air, but they don't punch out the rest of them to leverage holding the bird's body heat down into the box. So I need to get them unpacked and moved in as quickly as possible so that them and all these birds that are already here will gravitate back under where the lights are. But before I actually start pulling them out, I'm going to go ahead and set up at least 2 more waters. And normally we totally wait an hour or 2 to actually put feed down, but since they're moving into a pen that already has feed down, I'm going to go ahead and put feeders down as well. Now, also, another thing to note, we didn't expect to be able to get these Cornish rock cross meat chickens today, but them and the egg birds all came into the local area on the same shipment from the same hatchery. So they were all in the same transport group and in separate boxes. And so also here, normally we wouldn't necessarily prefer to start the egg birds and the meat birds together. In this case, we're going to, and then at some point here over the next week, we'll get probably the 78 meat birds will probably end up with this space that they're going into, and those egg production chickens will probably be moving into another little hen house that we have on the property. It's just a crazy week. It's just a crazy week. So anyway, but let me get some feeders and water set and then start getting some birds out and let you get a look at them. And at the end, I'll tell you what breeds we have in our egg production chickies over there. Okay, just got the 78 yellow chicks unloaded. So they are the Cornish rock cross meat chickens. So they're trying to acclimate, trying to find the warm places. One key thing we do when we unpack them one bird at a time by hand, gently. We dip their beaks in water one at a time. We make sure they imprint on being able to get water, and then we turn them loose in there and we give them time to settle. So another key thing is we want the temperature as close to what they want as possible, which would be approximately 95 degrees Fahrenheit. I told you outside there when we were fixing to get the box out, our outdoor temperature right now is 37 degrees Fahrenheit. That's why we've got heat lamps on and why we've got them lowered to the point where the birds are showing us that they're feeling the warmth off of them. We're going to be monitoring these heat lamps super, super close, checking frequently, and we're supposed to see temperatures rise over the next week to maybe 60s, maybe even 70. So we'll be able to adjust our use of the heat lamps as we go. But what we're seeing, like right there, where those birds are under the lamp, but not necessarily piling up on each other, that's what we want. So we are seeing a little bit of congestion packing up there under the light. So we may actually take some feed sacks and staple up on this wall and line this. That's the only place where any air is coming in. But they're away from it, so they're really not catching that draft. But this will be the coldest point, probably, for these flocks. So we'll just watch them, keep an eye on them, keep the warmth on them, and the targeted warmth from the heat lamps. And then as temperatures rise, you know, we'll be able to adjust the use of that heat lamps. At some point, we'll be able to lift them up, and at some point, hopefully, we'll be able to turn them off. But key thing with meat birds in particular on ambient temperature is 95 degrees Fahrenheit the first week is the ambient temperature we really want if we can get it. And then we can go like a 5-degree decrease weekly until about ambient temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And basically for our egg chickens, we can, the black feathered one there is one of the egg breeds. We basically can follow that same sort of ambient temperature prescription for them for the first 6 weeks or so. Just start out at about 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and we can reduce the temperature about 5 degrees Fahrenheit weekly and keep them in a comfort zone. So at this juncture with winter temperatures, Southeast Ohio, they're in a building, but we want to keep targeted warmth on them. Using these heat lamps will keep them feeling pretty comfortable, and then we'll just adjust for the bird's age and stage and for the climate as they grow. So they're all just day-old hatchlings here. There's their empty box. So that box would have packed 100 birds in it when it was packed from the hatchery, and you can see there the punch outs that I mentioned earlier for the air supply for those birds. And as I mentioned, like in the summertime when it's hot, they might still be able to pack 100 birds in there, but they're going to punch out all of those punch out holes to let heat escape. Okay, so last thing I want to mention with the chickies here is the feeders, and I wanted this is a great opportunity to show you a visual here. When we move chicks in, we use these baby feeder trays. They're 2 pieces. This is a hinge lid on top that sits on a base like that, fastens on it. When we actually move our chickens in as chicks, we prefer to leave the tops off, like this example. And there's chicks utilizing a feeder with the top off of it, and that's why initially we want to use the top off. And you won't probably be able to tell it here, but this is the flip side of why we want to start them with the tops off. They can reach in there and they can get to the feed, but once they eat the feed down, you know, we'll pile it up so it's reaching up here, and they can just stand here and the feed's right here. But once they start eating it down, they can get to a place where they can get their head in there, but sometimes it's harder for them to reach further in there, especially if it happens to be a shorter bird. Or, so a shorter bird like these little egg production birds, once this gets down so far, this top is going to hold them back from getting further down in there. So that could be a case for them. But also with these meat birds, they're bigger to start with. So if it gets down to the point where they can't get past their neck in there, because they're too big right here, then they're limited on being able to eat there. So if we start them off with just the tops off, that kind of helps them. See, like that one right there is trying to reach, and it's actually kind of hard for it to reach where that feed is eaten down. So, you know, it's still gonna try. It's gonna move down, but okay. So the first couple days, I'm gonna go ahead and take the top off of this one. The first couple days, we usually leave the tops off the feeders, and then, you know, they've figured it out, and then we'll put the tops back on, and we add more feeders, and we keep filling the feeders so that we have a constant feed supply in there during the first week for sure, for all the birds, whether they're meat birds or egg birds. And then we only expect them to be in these baby tray feeders, even with the lids. After we get the lids on, we only expect them to be in those about 10 days, 14 days at the most, okay? But we always want to get water down first, let them acclimate, let them drink water, get that in their digestive system initially, then give them access to food. And first week, we want to keep food down for them 24/7. And then what we're aiming for is using the heat lamps for targeted warmth to make them warm enough. The ideal would be 95 degrees Fahrenheit for them. We are going to leave an overhead light on throughout all of the daytime, and then we'll probably go ahead and turn the overhead light off about 10 p.m. and turn it on again about 8 p.m. is what we're going to be doing with the overhead light. So last thing I wanted to tell y'all, what breeds did we get in the egg production birds? We got basically, I think, we ended up, I think, with 5 different kinds, but we got, it's hard to tell the colors under the lights, but this lightest one here that's moving right there, that one is a lavender Orpington. So we got some lavender Orpingtons. We got actually 3 chocolate Orpingtons, which that may be one right there, and some black Orpingtons. And we also got some barred rock. Oh, and we got, and I can't pick them out, but we got some kind of Wyandotte, silver laced Wyandotte chicken. So we got them too. So really excited to see them. But I'm actually going to try to lower that light and that light down a link, because see how the birds are piling up. This one, I don't want to lower this one any further or this one any further. They're going to acclimate and get settled. We don't want them piling up like that, but we're going to give them some time to get settled. So I'm going to take the lid off of that, try to adjust those 2 lamps, and then at some point here in the next few days, we're going to actually separate the egg birds from the meat birds. And that is our preference, because the meat birds grow so much faster than the egg birds. Literally, I mean, just even right now, you know, maybe y'all can't see it on camera, but the meat birds are noticeably bigger right now than the egg birds. So like in a matter of a few days, they're just going to grow so much bigger than them. And so it's a catch-22 for both types. The meat birds outgrow the egg birds, and that can be kind of risky for the egg birds to be in the same arrangement with birds that just outsize them dramatically. But then also the egg birds tend to be busybodies compared to the meat birds. So you actually see them get to a point where the egg production birds, they almost kind of stress the meat birds out. They're so busy. But there's that little lavender Orpington. It just went around the water. So these birds are going to settle in. We had a nice surprise getting to start meat birds today. Didn't expect to get to do that. We're missing everybody and the interaction with everybody as far as not having the uploads this week, but we'll get uploads started again on March 10th. It ended up being what we needed to do, taking the week break from our YouTube uploads because we just had so many things to tend to this week that really needed devoted attention. So anyway, but they're doing good. So there's 78 and 12 and 7 is the number of birds we got here. So really excited to see chick season getting started for 2025.